Hey everyone, it's Dr. Lisa Sulsenti. I'm the Dr. Lisa Sulsenti podcast, and I am excited to talk about our part 3 in our Discovering Root Causes series. And today we're going to talk about toxins. And this is a huge topic, so I can't break it down into every single little toxin. Each toxin probably needs its own podcast, which we'll work on as we move forward in 2025 for sure. But it's a great place to start. And again, remember that this podcast, this beautiful podcast, is for educational purposes only, to increase your wisdom and knowledge in the health field, in the functional medicine field, and not to be used to treat or cure anything. Okay, so let's get started. This series was looking at the root causes of things. And if you've listened to the last two podcasts, well, if you haven't, go back and listen. But if you have, we talked about in the first one, we talked about inflammation. We talked about what it is and how it is linked. It is one of the root causes of diseases and health problems. But we questioned it and we said, well, what's causing the inflammation? Can we go deeper and can we discover a root cause to inflammation? And we talked about this. We talked about all the different ways of inflammation can affect the body, how it can leave the gut and get into the bloodstream, and how it can affect different systems and cellular death and create all these symptoms and health problems. We also got down to the root cause of inflammation, which, again, we're always kind of taking a step back and questioning. And that's really what you want to do with functional medicine. If you could take anything away from this podcast, it's asking yourself, what caused that? So if you start with inflammation, you might say, well, it's leaky gut. And then you might say, well, what's the cause of the leaky gut, right? So you just always want to ask that question as far back as you can until you kind of get to the crux of it. That's what this is about. The second podcast, we talked about imbalances and deficiencies, which, again, we looked at different imbalances in the systems of the body, and we can talk about thyroid. We could talk about, the brain, the imbalances in the neurotransmitters and the pathways to make serotonin and dopamine and epinephrine and GABA and all these things that you need. And we talked about when you see an imbalance, sometimes you're lucky and you can see it in a lab test where it's like a buoy going, hey, this is on fire, like, look here. And sometimes it's digging a little deeper. But again, when you see an imbalance in, let's say, serotonin, you need to ask yourself, what's causing that? Medicine will just kind of treat that symptom that you have. You have to understand the difference between medicine and functional. They're two completely different thought processes. And it's not that one is, better than the other. I don't even think of things like that because I feel medicine has its place, functional medicine has its place. But it's just two different thought processes and it's two different schoolings. When you're in school for functional, it is literally looking at the body as a whole, looking at different systems and constantly asking, well, what can be the cause of that? It is keeping your hands away from treating the symptom, which some of us do in functional, some of us do in nutrition. Is you're just giving somebody an herb, right, to treat a symptom, or you're giving like, sometimes we do homeopathic stuff. We'll give something natural to treat a symptom, and then we're starting to follow that medical model where you come in with a symptom, they give you a prescription. And that's not what we're trying to do, although that does have its place for sure. What we're trying to talk about today and in my podcast about functional medicine is, what is the root cause of things? Can we, and sometimes you find something and you're saying, well, what causes that? And then you find something else, you go, what causes that? And you kind of fixing these broken systems and these things as you go along. So we talked about imbalances in the gut microbiome, and we talked about also imbalances in some of the systems of the body like thyroid and brain. We talked about deficiencies of your vitamins, your minerals, your amino acids, your antioxidants. And we also went back and rolled back and said, well, why would you have deficiencies? Where does that come from? Food. So we brought us right back to the leaky gut and the gut wall not working properly. And again, what causes leaky gut? We also look at food sensitivities, we look at the gut microbiome imbalances, and we look at any kind of toxins, which is what we're going to talk about today. And that's why I wanted to lead up. They all go beautifully together. It all works synergistically together. Functional medicine looks at the body as a whole and not just as a singularity. Okay, so let's talk about toxins. Toxins is a huge topic, and I'm going to summarize it as best I can, and then we will spend time in 2025 breaking things down. if we may, I'm going to go right back to the gut, and then I will go back outside it. I always like to start in the gut and then kind of emanate outward, because it's such a huge surface area of your body. It's like 20 something feet shoved in there. I always want to talk about that terrain. I want to talk about that inside of you. And then once we leave the gut, we're emanating into the bloodstream, which is kind of like your roads and your taxis going throughout your body. So that's what we're going to do. The toxins in your gut. So I talked about briefly in the last, and I know I talked about it a lot in a lot of my podcasts, but we have this stool test that tests the gut microbiome. One half of the test is looking at the imbalances we discussed in the last podcast, where you have families and genres and species of good bacteria in the gut, and they're looking at your imbalances. Which families are too high, which families are too low, what overgrowths you have, and we're trying to match the right probiotic to fix that imbalance. So that's in that podcast. The other half of the test I briefly touched upon was pests that could be in there, right? We talked about the garden, and we talked about some pathogens that could be in the gut, which would be toxic, right? Toxins. So this could be parasites. And I have to have a podcast on parasites because it's a huge topic. But you could have parasites in your gut, and they would make the gut microbiome sick. They would create an imbalance in the gut. They would affect the gut wall. They could create that leaky gut scenario. On top of any food sensitivities, you could really have a tornado going on in that gut. There could be bacterias in there. What does that mean? So we have these good bacterias in there, but we could have some bad things that you may have gotten from food poisoning or foods or, things like that. Also, what could happen is you can have an overgrowth of the good bacteria. So bacteria can become a bit invasive in two ways. You could catch something or grab something from food poisoning, right? Or like the stomach flu, which is more viral, right? So you could have viruses and bacteria that you may have gotten from water, soil, traveling. There's lots of things that are in food that could give you food poisoning and things like that. So there's some strange bacteria that can come that way. But you have good bacteria in your gut too. And some of these families, when they overgrow and they become too high, they can also be invasive or pathogenic. So they could actually cause a very disruptive and get you kind of sick too. So that's a confusing thing for people, because a lot of the theory for germs is that you're catching it from the outside and it comes and invades you. But we do have things that occur inside us that get out of control, and they stem from inside. So I just want to make that clear, because functional is different. Not everything is being caught and brought in. Some of this is toxic stuff in you, imbalances and things that are going awry that are creating problems. So toxic gut is one thing that we talk about when you work with me. So let's get back to the gut microbiome. So you're looking at, we look for pathogens, we look for bacterial, viruses, parasites, fungus. Here's another thing. So you have yeast in the gut. It lives there. It lives there with the Streptococcus family and the Staphylococcus family and the E. coli family, all this stuff. Yeast lives inside your gut. But if it acts like those weeds in the garden that we talked about in the last podcast, and you get an overgrowth of yeast and it's kind of taking over your terrain, you can get very ill. And a lot of the symptoms of candida are similar to, the flu or not feeling well. They're similar to thyroid problems. They're very similar to autoimmune. They're very similar to a lot of symptoms that when you go to a doctor and you say X, Y, Z, I feel this, this, and this, those 5-6 symptoms are very similar across the board to other diseases, which is when they run some blood tests, they're looking for these little markers to go, hey, look over here, there's a fire over here. So that's why the blood tests are kind of important. So we can have toxins in our gut. Now, what you need to understand is that there's bacteria and viruses in the gut, especially these bacteria, they can leave what's called a biofilm. And these bacteria, what they like to do is they can create this little film or canopy. We in functional, we say it's like a little tent, and they can kind of burrow themselves into your intestines and just kind of hang out in there. And it's like, I guess the best way I can relate to it is when if you didn't brush your teeth for a day and you kind of have a film on your mouth, that's like bacteria leaving like a film. So you can have this biofilm in your gut that can make you not feel well or disrupt the microbiome of your gut, or be one of the factors to leaky gut. So we look at a lot of these things that are missed, and unusual to, I guess, conventional mainstream. And our testing is so thorough, we go further than a lot of the medical tests, where if we're looking at parasites, we look for I think they test pretty much everyone that you could test today. Instead of, I've seen in the hospital, they'll test like 2, and then they've missed the ones when they come in. And when I do the testing, I'm like, you do have a parasite. They just missed it because they didn't test like 20 of them. So, the testing in functional is very thorough, and that's why it's a little pricey, but it's effective. So toxins, what else could be in the gut? Would be heavy metals. That's a toxin, right? That could be in the blood. It actually, unfortunately, can get into the brain and cross that blood-brain barrier we talked about. It could be in the bloodstream. It could deposit into tissues, but it definitely can be in the gut. And a lot of these bad pathogens, these bad things, they like to feed with the heavy metals. So they sometimes go together. And you can have a very toxic body from heavy metals. But we sometimes see these heavy metals hanging out with these pathogens in the gut. So parasites and bacteria and viruses and heavy metals, they all kind of go together. It's also very important that the system of the gut is working. We didn't talk about this, but when we talk about toxins, it's such a huge topic. And I have some courses I'm planning to release in 2025. Keep them short, keep them very simple, but I want you to learn about the toxins in the gut. And then I want you to understand what detoxing really is. And then I kind of want you to understand why the liver and the gut are so important in this process. I also want you to be able to go through your home and look for toxins in your products. And so now we're looking outside the body, right? Where's the source of these toxins? And so we're going to look at your home. We can look at your skin. Like, what are you putting on your skin? Another huge organ of outside the body. So it's such a huge topic. And that's what I'm going to try to slowly introduce today, and then break it down for you and help you through 2025 learning this stuff. So we have toxins in the gut. We know that. We have heavy metals. That could be a problem. Heavy metals can affect so many different functions and, again, systems. And it can affect the tissues and the cells. And it can definitely mimic or create the same symptoms that, I don't even mean mimic, but it can create the same symptoms, again, like I mentioned before, that candida could, that the flu could, that autoimmune can, loss of memory, not paying attention. You could have digestive problems. So the problem with treating a symptom and making it go away is you kind of didn't get the root cause of the problem gone. So that's still there. So sometimes putting out the fire by treating the symptom isn't necessarily a good thing, although, it's good intent, of course. So we've got heavy metals. That's something to look at. The other things to look at, of course, are infections that do come in the body, right? There's Lyme's and Epstein-Barr and things like that. They create toxins. Other things to look at, too, are molds, which we call mycotoxins. So molds are another thing. Can come in from the food, come in soil, can be actually, in your home. There's molds that could be a source of toxins as well. The other aspect of toxins is there's another 2 things I want to talk about in the podcast before I end this, is that the liver and the gut actually have functions to get rid of things that the body doesn't need. Simple as that. That's literally what they're doing. It's like your garbage station, right? So I'm going to talk about the gut, and then I'm going to talk about the liver. The gut is super, super important. I can't stress it enough. And you probably, maybe when you listen to my podcast, you're like, I get it. It's all you say. So you always go back to it. This is because, 1, it's huge, right? 2, its function is to break down the food that you eat. Listen, because if you get anything from this podcast, it's right here. It's to break down the food that you eat, that you choose to eat, and pull all the goodness out. vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, amino acids, all that stuff, omegas, and allow that stuff to leave and cross and permeate out of the gut and get into the bloodstream. And then the bloodstream is supposed to bring it to where it needs to go. So we hope that the cells and the organs like the thyroid, they get what they need, right? Everything happens and you're healthy. That's the thing. Now, one problem can be that doesn't work. We talked about that. The other problem can be that you don't eat well and you're putting all these toxins in. And the gut is trying to do what it can. So if you're putting toxins in through food and you're eating processed foods, man-made foods, fast foods, just absolute garbage foods that I don't consider food, you're putting toxins in. All you have to do, if you don't know if you are, is turn over and read the ingredients in things. And if they're not food, they're man-made chemicals made in labs. You're putting those into your body and you're expecting and demanding your gut to know what they are and break them down and put them into your bloodstream? I'm not too sure what it is that people are thinking. I mean, you could just pull McDonald's, you could just pull chicken nuggets and start reading the ingredients, and I don't mean to, put them down, but you can see that back in the day, their ingredients were very few and now it's garbage. You can go to Europe and you can see how they offer all these companies offer cleaner versions of things in Europe. I've been there. It's crazy. But here in America, it's garbage. Not that you should be eating garbage in Europe either, guys, if you're in Europe and listening. But let's get back down to, the markets, like eating, your fruits, your vegetables, not fried, not air fried, not in a can, not in sugar, not in syrup. You know what I'm saying? Real fruits, grown, peel, eat, vegetables. You might be saying, oh gosh, Dr. Lisa, I get this. I don't think so. I can't. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I can't believe what I go through, and what I have in front of me. And I'm so glad people come to me and we help them. But there's kids that come in, they don't know what a pear is. They've never seen it before. They don't know what blueberries are, because they're so used to the American fast food pace. So I get it too. I'm not judging anybody. Believe me, I'm not perfect at this. My kids, if they're listening, as soon as they get their license, I don't know if you guys have kids. My kids did great, ate great until they got to school, and the schools undermine you. And then they have the lunchroom where other parents are giving their kids crap, and my kids are trading it. And there's some kids that are really going for the organic stuff. God bless them. And then they get their license, and I put that all on my kids then, because my kids will start going to, Wawa's or 7-Elevens or McDonald's, and they just start that whole thing. Yeah, because that's our society. So I'm not blaming it on you. Please don't think I'm blaming it on you if the way I'm coming across. It's just blows my mind how bad society's gotten since I was a kid. So it's peer pressure too, and that's where the kids hang out, and that's what's going on, and that's what we do. And then you become parents and you're going crazy with, running kids everywhere, and it's easier to go through the drive-thru. I get it. Please don't think I don't. But let's get back to toxins. So the food you're eating, if it's toxic, you're asking the gut to say what? So what the gut does, it's either going to take the goodness, the good things, and let it cross, and let it leave the gut and get into the bloodstream. And then the other part of the gut, right, the function is to get rid of the toxins, to get rid of the things it doesn't need. Now, some of the things aren't toxic, like just a fiber that runs through you, it's just going to poop out, right? So there might be a part of the apple, God forbid you eat the seed or something, whatever. It's just some of it doesn't need and it gets rid of. But it's also going to work very, very hard to get rid of the things that are man-made that it doesn't know what it is, right? So it's going to try to do that. So part of the gut's function is detoxification. People don't realize that. We talked about detox, and all these drinks and stuff that I see, and it's garbage, guys. It's garbage. It's just garbage. The detoxification comes from the gut working properly. It comes from the systems within the gut working properly. It comes from you eating healthy and not putting the garbage in and making the whole gut overwork. Here's the problem. When you get a leaky gut and when you get the gut wall not working properly, that stuff gets out into your bloodstream. That crap gets out. And now you have inflammation and you have toxins floating around your bloodstream. So now your immune system's in and it's trying to get rid of it. And I get so passionate about this, so I don't know if I'm yelling and it's coming across the microphone loud, but this is you're creating fires upon fires upon fires in the body. And so one of the things you need to do is clean up your diet and focus on healing your gut, repairing your gut, getting that gut wall to work properly. It's supposed to be a very efficient gut wall. And it's supposed to be pretty strong, tight junctions where it's not letting bad things get into your bloodstream. And its job is to detoxify and get rid of bad things. When you have a leaky gut, this all gets messed up. So estrogen, let's talk about estrogen really quickly. It's good for the body. It's meant for the body. Your body needs it. It is important to the body. And the gut actually breaks that down and helps. So your body is going to either use estrogen, like it's going to metabolize it and say, hey, we need it. Let's uptake it. Let's use it. Or it's going to be like, you know what? We got to get rid of it. So you've got you've got your kidneys and your liver system, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but you've got your stool system. And so your waste are going to come out your stool. So hormones and things that are healthy get broken down here. When your gut's not working properly, guess what? You get toxicity. You get toxins. Toxins aren't necessarily just a heavy metal that you got in. We are exposed to heavy metals every day. We are exposed to bacteria. We are exposed to parasites. We are exposed to toxins. Your body should be able to deal with it and get rid of it. But when you have a body that's not working properly, a gut that's not working properly, a garbage system or a detoxification system that's not working properly, then we get toxicity. And the more toxins you put into a system that can't keep up, the more toxic you get. And toxins will create cancer. They'll create your diseases. They will create the high blood pressure. They will create the high cholesterol and all the things you keep running to for medications. So you have to think about what you're doing with your body and if your gut is working properly. And then if we quickly go over to the liver, which is a whole system in itself, and I could do a podcast on that. And I know I promised 20 minutes, so I have to wrap this up. But I told you toxins are a big topic. The liver detoxifies everything. It has a system, and I want to bring this up because when you're trying to do these detox drinks and all this stuff, I'm telling you, it's not what's going on. And this took me a long time to learn. So it's not that you need a long time to learn it. I'm here to summarize it and keep it as simple as possible because it's a complicated system. But the liver's job is to do what I told you about the gut, but even on a higher level. So its job is to take something that cannot be excreted from the body in a safe manner and convert it into a safe thing. So now it can go to the kidneys or, even in the stool, and it can leave safely. That's really important. So it's going to be your converter, right? It's your filter. It's your detoxifier, meaning it takes a toxic substance or compound and detoxifies it, puts it into a safer form. What we're talking about, it's in a form that if you were to pee it out or get rid of it, it would harm you. It would hurt you. So it's going to put into more like a water soluble form where you can just pee it. You can pee it out. For example, you can pee out like vitamin C. Everybody knows that because it's water soluble. But like fat soluble things, you can't just pee out. They have to be broken down. They have to be made into something safer. Hormones are like that. So it doesn't mean when you think of toxins, you just think of something bad. You could have something that's really healthy for the body, like a hormone that just can't be peed out, right? It has to be broken down. And when we test hormones, urine-wise, we test the broken pieces, the things that come out in the urine, which are called metabolites. So the little pieces that come out at the end, the things that you keep converting. I know that's all confusing, but I want people to understand that it's the liver. The liver's job with the gut is they break things down. They get rid of things. They get rid of things for you, right? Alcohol is the number one poison we all know is in the body. The liver has to convert it to something safe to get rid of it. So that's another system you have to look at. Is that system working properly that you're detoxifying things? So those are really two important systems. So we talked about the food, and I didn't mean to make you feel bad that if you're eating crappy, but I'm probably going to make you feel bad when I talk about this last part before I go. Where else are your toxins coming from? So, of course, we want to make sure the body can handle toxins. We want the gut wall working properly. We want the detoxification system within the gut to be working properly. We want the liver detoxification system to be working properly. But I also want my patients to not put toxins into their mouth, right? Into their drinks. But then I have to look at their skin. Huge, huge, largest surface area of the body outside the body, just like the gut is the largest surface area inside the body. So the skin outside your body is just as important as the skin inside your body. Okay? So what are you putting on it? It's also permeable. It also goes across the skin barrier into the blood. So what are you putting on it? Ladies, all those fragrances, they're bad for you. You're asking your body to do what with them? What? All those smelly, candles, you're breathing those in. Sorry, that's more, it's not putting it on your body. That's actually what's going through your smells. So, I got ahead of myself. But think of the bodies, the lotions, right? The moisturizers, the makeups. I can't tell you, the girls that have high estrogen are crazy with skincare. I see it. You have to look at all the skincare that you use on your face. If you're so worried about breaking out in your face, you've got to get to your liver and to your gut and into your hormones. You have to tackle that, and you got to stop putting stuff on your face. So you've got to look at all that stuff. So cosmetics, moisturizers, night creams, anti-aging, makeup, all of it. Body care, lotions, shampoos, creams, yes, the candles, because I was thinking of Bath and Body Works and all the stuff in there. Go read. If you don't believe me, please, please, please do me a favor and Google all the ingredients and everything you're using. Go into your bathroom and Google all of that. Go into your refrigerator and your pantry and Google all that. And just, I know I'm overwhelming you, but this is toxins. This is what the topic's about. This is the root causes of a lot of dysfunction in the body. It's a toxic overload. Your body can't handle this stuff. It's bad enough some of the food today is made with toxins and pesticides and genetically engineered foods, and that's a hard thing to control. But I want to empower you from this podcast. This podcast is a tough one because I know people are like, oh, but I want to leave it with this. And I know I went over the 20 minutes and I'm sorry, but I want to give you this empowerment and this information. There's some things we can't control in the world. People ask me, what about the chemtrails in the sky? Or what about what they put in our water? Or what about what they put in our fish? Or what about, the spraying of the foods? There's so much you can do, right? You can put a water filter on your home for sure, right? But when you're out, what do you do, right? So there is only so much you can do, but the good news is there's a lot you can do. That's what I want you to understand. There's a lot you can control. Try not to worry and stress and have anxiety over the things you can't control. There is a lot of things you can control, and that's what I want to go forward into 2025 in the seasons and try to tackle each one of these topics, one at a time. I also want to offer you these courses online that aren't going to be really long and big and huge. You can get in there and I can keep it simple, and you can implement these things in your home that I'm talking about in the podcast, and I can show you how, and I can give you simple steps to do. So we can go through the home together, because my home has really fallen off the wagon, by the way. I have Dawn dish detergent out because we got it for the holidays to scrub grease, but now it's still on my counter and I can't stand the smell. It makes me sick. So I'm not perfect either. I've got to get that out of my house. So there's, we for a moment there, we had, a fluoride toothpaste going. So I converted back to that. But I can walk you through all this and make this easy. You don't need to run out today and spend $1 million on trying to detoxify your house and detoxify your bathroom stuff and detoxify all your makeup. I want to walk you through just changing one thing at a time. Just, when you go food shopping or something, one switch, then another switch, then another switch. And if you're doing great and like me and you're usually pretty good and falling off the wagon, let's tighten it up a little bit. So that's what I'm going to bring to you in 2025 is how can we get to these root causes? How can we make the changes where we are empowered to have control in our bodies and our lives, and where can we make these changes and get healthier and healthier and healthier? So I hope this helps with you guys. I know it's a lot. I never want to sound negative on these things, but it's empowerment. I think what happens with at least America, I can't talk about other countries, is that we have been raised to fix a problem immediately. And I think big pharma did really well with that, where, we have a headache, we take a pill, it's gone. Yay, love that. But we kind of have that approach in everything we do. And sometimes, small steps make big changes. So if we can work together in 2025 to just start making small changes step by step together and getting our body to be healthier, getting our gut to work properly, I think we could really change our lives. What do you think? You join me? I hope so. Thank you.